Hi folks, this is Stacy Cobb and I want to share with you my summer 2022 project. I ended up having to have knee surgery last fall, and then I had shoulder surgery in June. So I haven't spent as much time crafting as I normally would have because it's hard when you're recovering from surgery. It's not very much fun when you're in pain. So now that I'm feeling better, it's all starting to, I'm really starting to get back into it. So anyway, this was my summer project that I started working on. And I started working on this after I had shoulder surgery. So some days I did more and some days I didn't work on it at all. Anyway, as you can see, it's a little thick, but it does kind of squish down. The cover is made out of trash. It's made out of throwaway packaging cardboard. The little 1mm thick stuff like what cereal boxes, and I put several layers of it together to give it some strength. And then the binding underneath all this is a layer of duct tape. And then after I stitched my signatures in, then I put a layer of black tape over it, as well as some glue, which is what all this ratty looking stuff is, which actually I kind of like, so I'm leaving it. On the back here is some homemade collage paper, and then I applied it, and then I applied some of Lindy's Magical pigment powders, and I really like how they have a shimmery quality. They're very pretty. They're highly pigmented, bright, vibrant colors. I just love them. Anyway, and the edge is all black tape, which is kind of like painter's tape, and I got it off of Amazon. I just looked up black book binding tape, I think, and you can sort through all the varieties. I don't even know what kind I got. Now the front is a little bit shiny because I added a piece of acetate packaging that would have normally been in the trash. So it's a little bright. And I'm going to hold it so that it's not quite so reflective. But as you can see, I put it on there because this is actually pretty layered. I don't know if you can really see it, how layered it is. There's probably 4 or 5 layers of cardboard, basically. I use 1mm thick paperboard, or chipboard, I guess you could call it. The background is embossed, but you can hardly see it. See, there's a little bit right there for all the other stuff that's in there, and I think you can see it. And now you can kind of see what I've done here. The little dial there came from Stamperia paper with a limited edition sentiment from Tim Holtz's Noteworthy. The butterflies are stamped with Versamark ink, and then I used black embossing powder to get the butterflies, and then I painted them with some watercolor. It might have even been some of the Lindy's Magicals, I don't remember. The lace portion right here is just some scrap coffee dyed paper that I used this crochet lace die cut, and then I used some Sizzix rose gold luster wax on it, and it gives it actually a really kind of coppery look. When making the front here, making all these little rusty crusty pieces, I used grit paint. First I painted them all black, and then I used grit paste on them to give them texture, and then I used my daubers with oxide inks in a variety of colors to achieve the rusty look I wanted. Now let's get on with the show here. Inside the cover, both insides covers have this paper from Stamperia. It's gorgeous, gorgeous paper. And I made, like, on the cover, the little family here, the man and two boys. I wrote a little story about who that is. And then I wrote a little foreword to the reader, or the viewer. This is a work of fiction created purely for the purpose of entertainment and enjoyment. It is the intention of the creator to excite the imagination of you, the viewer/reader of this work. It has been created using a variety of materials commonly available in the marketplace via stores or online stores such as Amazon.com. A list of items used will be listed in the back of the book for your enlightenment. How they are used are for you to figure out. Any resemblance to any person or persons is purely coincidental and unintentional. This was inspired by Tim Holtz's ideology line of paper dolls. Respectfully, S.V. Cobb, which is me. These little butterflies come from the dollar store. They have the best selection of stickers, I tell you. This is my own calligraphy, and I used walnut ink. And walnut ink is made from walnut husks, and it's just ground up. I don't know what all they do to it. Ground it up, you buy it, and it's ground up in a powder, and then you reconstitute it with water. This is Tim Holtz's doily. This is a Sizzix embossing folder, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. I made this little embellishment with folded paper and a series of layered circles. This has got a little gear and then a little circle and a little tiny circle, and they're all painted different colors. This is Stamperia paper. This is from Tim Holtz Gearhead, and so you'll see those gears throughout. This is Stamperia. This is from Ticket Booth. This is Lucky in Love or something like that, where you have the shamrock. This is an impresslet from Sizzix. Again, some Stamperia paper. These are paper dolls from his paper doll set. In my paper doll set, I got 2 of these, and so I put them together like they were twins, and I found this little girl, and she makes a wonderful little sister, and I've written a little note about it. These photographs like this, if you see full photographs like these, they came from some wrapping paper that I got last year from Which Craft Do You Do? These are images from that wrapping paper, and I just cut them out and distressed them a little bit and made them look like they were lost and found in the bottom of some trunk. And I did this up on my computer just like I did these little sayings. The background is stamped with an old stamp, and I have no idea where I got it. I've had it for about 10 years and I can't remember back that far. Noteworthy set, Be Authentic. And again, some more of my calligraphy, and I just kind of made up names for these people and what I thought they might have done. Here's some more of that. This is from Tim Holtz's Chapter 3 release. This is the embossing folder, or not Chapter 3. It's the one before that. It's a fairly new embossing folder. This is Elegant. This is washi tape. You Are Enough. It came from his Noteworthy set. And then this is my calligraphy. I just love this little girl. She came off of that wrapping paper that I got from Witchcraft. Here's an impresslet, Tim Holtz winged impresslet. This is from the Flutter. The stamping in the background is from Botanical Collage. This is a medallion, Tim Holtz medallion, and Noteworthy. And this is some of my, I had to reinforce my signatures because they're kind of heavy, so I reinforced it with some duct tape in the middle, and that's what you'll see there. This is from an embossing folder, a Sizzix embossing folder. I believe it's also a Tim Holtz. The smaller medallion, ticket booth. And then I stamped this piece of paper with different things from Eccentric and Stamperia paper background. Stamperia paper background, Stamperia paper here. This is also Stamperia. This is from Gearhead, Paper Dolls, and we have the Men's Drinking Club. Anytime I get to make something like Rusty Crusty, I love this. And you see the sheen on that? That is some embossing powder that I heat embossed over the image. And I just think it gives it a really sweet look. And I wish I'd done it with more of them, but I didn't think of it in time. This background is some Lindy's Magicals. They're not as bright on these, and I'm not sure why. And then I stamped using a variety of stamps from Field Notes and Eccentric on the background here on both of these. And also another one of the stamping sets, and I can't remember the name of it. And then I just made up stuff, and this is Elegant with a white background and a little bit of tumbled glass. If a woman doubts as to whether she should accept a man or not, she certainly ought to refuse him. If she can hesitate as to yes, she ought to say no directly. It's a quote by Jane Austen, and it's found in the book Emma. This is also a Tim Holtz die cut. This is Stamperia. Again, some more of my own paper over some coffee dyed paper. This is a little star swirl stencil that I have, a Tim Holtz stencil. And I used some texture paste and then worked it over with a little chipped sapphire. This is walnut ink on this. And this You Make Today Amazing. I love this little girl. I just think she just has so much joy in her. And I made up a story about her. And I had so much fun with this particular background. It's one of my favorites. Although these are not necessarily colors that I really gravitate to, but I seem to do quite a bit of it in this book. And I used some stamps from Eccentric and from Field Notes on here, and also from a postcard stamp set that I got from Sizzix. And then this particular thing, it was on a off-brand stencil that I got. And then it says Shine Brightly from Noteworthy. This is another one where I took two different paper dolls and put them together as a set because they both have fur coats. So I wrote a little story about a mother and a daughter and about how you should love with all your heart and just nice things, I think. And again, more of the stamp set from Sizzix, and this is from Stamperia, this is from Stamperia, and the background is with distress oxides. Both of these have distress oxides. This is a Stamperia background, but this has that botanical embossing folder. I think it's very elegant. I decorated it with a little silver luster wax because supposedly in my story that I wrote, they're celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. How wonderful. And isn't love a worthwhile adventure? You can take those noteworthy stamp sets, stamp them all up, cut out the words you want to use, and just use them. It's kind of like movable type. Again, I put this together as if these were the grown daughters of this couple. And I just thought it was kind of a nice kind of celebration of family. This is another one. Celebration of young love. Love with all your heart. This paper, I'm not sure where it came from, but this is Tim Holtz This is, I think, Walmart, and that's Stamperia. All right, I like these pictures with men and with the women. I think they just they're kind of cool. This one's focusing on the good, and this arrow, I had the hand pointing up. And basically I said that here are the local winners from the billiard tournament, you know. And this came from Eccentric. And this background and this background are both from Tim Holtz. This is from a Hobby Lobby paper I got. This is Elegance, black background, silver luster wax. And I wrote a story. I wanted to write something about suffragettes, which, in light of recent events in the news, where people just, we've worked so hard as women to have a place in the world. And I think we need to remember where we started. You know, 100 years ago, we were just getting the vote. Unless you lived in some place like Wyoming, where you were granted the vote when it was a territory. So, it's something to think about. This came from the Eccentric set. I wanted to write about how people came to this country and they worked hard. And in my mind, these guys came here and they went to work and they started a business and they paid bills and what have you, and their family still has the business today in my little story. And it says Eamon McMahon and his brother Kieran answered the advertisement found in the Daily Ink Press. They worked for Kellum Cudahy for 7 years and eventually bought Cudahy out, changing the name of the business to City Cabinetry. The business is still owned by the McMahon heirs. And they didn't come to this country with anything. They were fearless, they did themselves, and they had the belief in their own ability. This is about families, and I pretended like these two were cousins. This is Stamperia paper, gearhead, flutter. I used a lot of flutter on the back of some field note. This one's dedicated to children, and it's a little sad because children didn't always live to be grown-ups. And I made it like this little girl is Kathleen Kitty O'Rourke, age 2. Photo by P.J. O'Rourke, San Francisco, California. She died of whooping cough at age 5. Now, I don't know if that's true. It's made up. And these are all came from Gearhead. This is more of that crochet, the doily embossing folder, and we have a flutter. I'd like to put the butterflies throughout this. Here's another little piece of crochet. This is a doily that I cut in half. It's a Tim Holtz Sizzix die. It's about yay big. And I cut it in half and made it look like a rug. And I wanted to say something about, we have a lot of immigrants come to this country. And here it says, first generation Americans, the children of Mr. Patrick Jonas Moran and his wife, the former Kathleen Mary O'Boyne. The boys are pictured left to right, Neil, Liam, and Rory, and the girls are Molly and Maura. The photo was taken by Victoria Vanderpool, Chicago. And then I had it right, like it would if somebody had ripped this out of the paper. The dog is Corky, so I included the dog. And again, belief in themselves. I love this picture of this little girl. I think she's just darling, and I think she kind of reminds me of my granddaughter. Although I've never seen Elizabeth dressed like that. And be authentic. I thought it would kind of add to it to have a little bit of gearhead going on, and a little Stamperia paper in the background. We don't hear much today about kids going to church and going through First Communion and all that, But it used to be, I mean, when I was a kid growing up, it was a huge deal. So I included a little bit about that. And I wanted to celebrate young love and that people would get married and have a life, and they stayed married. And in this one, I had both these couples come here and get married and raise families. And I made this in my mind. This is a couple that were Jewish, and they wanted to, they had a delicatessen, they raised a family, they were members of their community, and lived a long and happy life together. And these people were immigrants from two different places who found love in the New World, you know. And life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. This is tiny text right here. Own your own dreams. Best day ever. Noteworthy. This is embossing folder here. Stamperia paper. This is another one. And on these, when they're shiny like this, what I've done is I've used embossing glaze. And this is antique linen embossing glaze. This is some paper that I don't know where I got it. The background, I did the smoosh technique with some oxide inks, and then I stamped them with Collage and field notes. This particular die comes from Altenew, but it's colored with, I embossed it with gold embossing, heat embossing, and then I colored it with oxide inks. The stamping also came from Eccentric and from another one with the fragmented texts. This came from Tim Holtz, one of the papers. I just cut it out. And this is a die cut. It's actually a switchlet. You can't really, it doesn't really show up very good, but it has a little texture. And I put that in there. And then I love this picture with these kids. You just know there's a story behind this one, of how they sat down together and had this picture, and they must have played together. This came from Stamperia. These are Tim Holtz papers. This was a paper that I had, and then I embossed it with the botanical embossing folder, and Eccentric, Noteworthy, great stuff. I love this particular page. I love this with friends. I went to a college that had its beginnings as a normal school, so I wanted to put an ode to something that we don't have much anymore. We don't know where our colleges got started. But a lot of colleges in the West were normal schools. They were started to educate teachers. And so I had these girls be graduates of a normal school. And this one, this is an embossing folder before I get to talking about this one. This is an embossing folder. I think this came from Eccentric. And then this kind of crocheted effect behind, that was using some Simon Hurley stamping foam on one of my doilies that I got at a yard sale. And I thought it turned out really good. This flower here is, I don't know if you can see it real well. This flower here is from Floral Elements and Eccentric. And I got to play with, I just love the look of that little boy. I think he's just so cute. You can just see the mischief, and I had fun making up a story about him and about this man and these two little girls. This comes from Eccentric. These papers are from Tim Holtz. This is a Tim Holtz embossing folder, or impresslet, excuse me. And then I cut it out of black paper added grit paste and then added a variety of colors to get the rusty look and just a hint of rose gold luster wax. And I did the same technique with these wings here. And this is Stamperia paper. This is Stamperia paper. This is some more stamping with Versamark ink, and then on the stamping foam, and then I used white embossing powder on it. This is a stencil back here with gold embossing powder, and the impossible is often the untried. That's from Tiny Text, and this is from the Street Signs embossing folder. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. Leonardo da Vinci. This was cut out from some Tim Holtz paper, as was this. And then this is from Brushstroke Flowers number 2. And this actually had a pattern on it, a floral pattern, and then I used the botanical embossing folder over it and embossed and then highlighted the embossing with some tumbled glass. This is the background is oxide ink, and then these are deer. They're also a Tim Holtz die. This little boys, they came from that Australian wrapping paper. I love this idea, you know, and actually these two pages go together. It's like girls and then they're women. And the background, I used floral elements and oxide smooshing and botanical collage. I used floral elements and some tiny text here. This is noteworthy, and this is some wrapping paper. I just teared off a piece and put it here, a little bit of that paper that I stamped earlier. And here they had the recital, and here they're reunited. And these are brushstroke flowers, and this is some of the leaf dye. Tattered leaves, I think. I'm not sure what it's called. Leaf remnants, something like that. And this is the last page. And I was just kind of playing around and trying floral elements with different things. And I did some embossing with gold here, and here I did it with black to see how I would like it. Just added a leftover piece here and added these two little precious children here. And I just put that they were lost and found and a little bit about who they are. Here's my list of all the things I used. Oh my Lord. So on this side we have adhesives, papers, mediums, stencils, dies, bigs dies, switchlets, stickers, impresslets, embossing folders, embossing powders and glazes, stamp sets, inks. I did use Ohio River. I didn't list it on there, but this is walnut ink. All other inks used are Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks by Ranger and a variety of colors. So I didn't list the individual colors. And miscellaneous. Black paper tape from Amazon, various washi tapes, and Lindy's Magicals, and homemade collage paper. And then I forgot to put on there that this is just a piece of throwaway packaging from something I ordered online. Well, that was my my recovery project, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for watching. If you liked this or thought it was of any interest, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you feel like it. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Thank you again. See you later. Bye.